I let my friend freeze in a park's bench when I was 13. I never ever talked about this, but I just could not take it anymore. I was 13 years old and was going through this unruly teen phase, you know. Me and two of my friends decided to get some alcohol and get wasted after school. It's pretty easy to get booze as an underage person where I come from. So, when we left class, we went straight to the market and bought 2 bottles of a really strong drink called a scoff. We went to a park and at about 5 p.m. we started drinking. We had that rush of doing something illegal, and after an hour or two, we all were already really drunk. About 7-8 p.m., one of my friends passed out. He was the one who drank the most. It was his first experience with alcohol. And when he got unconscious, me and my other friends started to get worried. We put him laying down on a bench, tried to give him water and did everything we could to wake him up, but he kept sleeping. A couple of hours passed, and it was getting pretty late, so I made the worst decision of my life. I suggested to leave him there overnight, so his mom wouldn't find out we got alcohol. I unlocked his phone and texted her. "Mom, I am sleeping at S today." Then we made him as comfortable as possible and left. I thought he would just wake up in the middle of the night and go home. I was so scared of my mom finding out. And the next day, he did not answer any of my texts and did not show up to school. A teacher close to his mother walked in our classroom and said he was in the hospital in an extremely serious situation. He experienced alcohol poisoning and hypothermia. His brain was damaged by his super low body temperature. He stayed about 12 hours in the hospital before he died. No one ever found out me and my friend were there with him that day, and we swore to take that to our graves. I told my mom I did not want to go to his funeral because I couldn't take it, but it was actually because of the guilt. I never saw his mother again, and the people at my school do not talk about this anymore. Sometimes I wonder what life would he have had if I did not leave him to freeze to death on that bench.
Well, that's a freezing confession. Do not forget to heat up that frozen like button.
They thought he was okay. But he was okay. Alright, I am out.
Oh, this brought back a lot of emotions. In my first year teaching, I taught a great kid who would get into trouble now and then. Sweet. Shy. Liked to drink. Well, winter in this town. It gets to 40. Her last name started with an A. I started the roll call. Called her name. Silence. A few kids start to get teary. Immediately. It was like a movie. An announcement comes on. All staff and students report to the gym. Inge drank. Passed out in a truck bed. Her friends left her. Froze to death. That same year, 2 kids killed themselves, a teacher died texting and driving, and a principal died at school from a heart attack. I moved away. Dark times. Life is so fragile. Share love while you can.
Wow. I had a friend who died very similarly in freshman year. The people she was drinking with left her in a car overnight after she passed out and they panicked. I will never forget seeing her lying so still in her casket. I'll never forget you, Cassie. Wow, now this is a real confession.
Probably one of the worst things I've read on here. It's hard to find blame, but it is so tragic. Can't stop thinking about the poor kid. I disagree with those saying you need to tell his mom. She has made peace with this. There's no need to dredge it up again, and let her know he could easily have survived. If you do decide to confess, be sure it is for her benefit and not yours. Ask yourself what she gains from a confession. Make sure confessing isn't to benefit your conscience instead of her well-being.
I agree, do not dredge it up for the poor parents. If you need to confess, go to a priest or similar.
Holy poop man, please get some therapy for this, guilt will kill you.
Yes, most probably.
Damn. This is the first time I read something here which actually made my jaw drop. I do not think some people here realize you were 13 and drunk yourself. Fuck man. I am sorry for the boy, the family and the 2 of you.
You feel bad for someone who only thought of himself in this situation? Fuck this dude. Crock this greedy piece of poop. I hope there is a special place in hell for people like Op.
As someone that lost my daughter, when you are young, you make some really big mistakes just because you have no experience. When you are young and drunk, even more so. Whichever way you cut this, he was also stupidly, responsible for his actions. And you were in no position to be responsible for his actions. Do not tell his mom. She has had enough of this already, I can guarantee you that. While she may understand that you were all just 13. For her it will still be hard to square that against wanting other people to be responsible so that she does not blame herself as a parent. It will only make it worse for her to dredge through it again. Edit. Fixed incomprehensible English. Thank you for the upvotes.
Sorry for your loss, man.
I had a similar situation when I was 14 or 15. I was in the woods with 4 friends. Me and my best friend were on shrooms. And my 2 other friends had alcohol. I already thought it was weird the way they were talking and drinking. So I got up and left on a walk. When I came back, one of the dudes was absolutely smashed. He was crying and doing all this weird poop. Then he's starting puking. And it was still full sun, but we were in a valley, so it was gonna get dark in about an hour. I was high as crock on shrooms, but I think I saw blood in his vomit. He was cold to touch even though he was laying in the sun. It gets pretty cold where we were at night, so I was really afraid of leaving him. He wouldn't give us his phone password to call his mom. And I thought exactly what happened to your friend was gonna happen to mine. So I had to literally pick him up. High as crock on shrooms. Walk him like a mile out of the woods and call ambulance. Well, I did not have a phone, so I had to flag someone down. The funniest thing was he said, "Damn kids smoking pot," and I thought if you only knew. Then cops and firemen came and a cop drove me home. I was so high on shrooms, but it did not look like he could tell. I think I kept my cool. That was a poopy day. Oh, and I had to give my friend my weed so I did not get caught with it, and he stole it from me. I do not talk to any of them anymore.
Jesus, dude. It was real of you to do that.
As a mom, the worst part for me is that you sent a text that would have made his mom think he was sleeping over somewhere safe. If she hadn't received that text, she may have looked for him and found him in time to save his life.
Yay, I cannot imagine how the mother felt, but I do not really want to place blame. Obviously, the excuse that he was young does not cut it, but the fear that he would have experienced must have been insane.
First, I want to say that you aren't a terrible person. You were 13. And drunk, both of which led to bad decision making. This is a really sad story though. Let this be a lesson to everyone reading to make sure. And talk to your kids about coming to them if they've done something wrong and are scared. What I found is the things kids do to not get caught is usually more stupid than the thing they are scared of being caught doing. Like the time I drove drunk to cover up the fact I had been drinking. Driving drunk is way more stupid than drinking. Make sure your kids feel comfortable coming to you in these types of situations. This. You're so right. I will never be a mother who has children that are scared to talk to me. My kids will know I am 100% for them. Always. Even if they do something super stupid. It does not mean there won't be consequences, but it does mean we will always work through things together and that in the moment. I won't blame them or get angry. I'm sorry you did not feel you could go to your parents with this.
Do not tell his mother. It will just give her more pain.
Damn. That poop is dark.
This exact same thing happened to my brother-in-law. Except he had one friend who felt so guilty and worried he came back for him after a few hours. He still ended up in the hospital, but if it wasn't for that one friend, this story would have been eerily similar.
On a lighter note, I went through the ice when I was like 11 or so. I was croaked. Ice kept breaking around me and I had no way out. My friend threw himself in, got to me and dragged me out. It was cold out. Like 5 degrees or so. He took me to his house, gave me blankets while he threw my stuff in the dryer. Saved my life that day. I haven't thought about that in decades.
Thanks for sharing that. Holy poop, you need to go to therapy about this, otherwise it is just going to eat you up from the inside.
You were a child. It's time to forgive yourself. Work with a professional. This is real trauma that cannot be resolved through a Reddit moment of catharsis. Every additional day spent carrying this shame will dramatically warp your life in more ways than you can imagine. I so hope for your peace, Op. Writing here was an extremely brave step. Now it is time to schedule an appointment.
Kid would have survived if he hadn't sent that fake text to his mom. Also, it sounds like he's still in school and still young. Pretty sure he deserves the guilt he feels.
My friends and I did all that, and worse before the days of cell phones, but we would never have deserted each other out in the cold.
Something similar happened to me when I was around that age. We were all getting drunk, but one friend was drinking way more. He started acting very strangely and somewhat aggressive. We went to an arcade and he went to the bathroom. When I checked on him, he was passed out on floor and there was puke and blood everywhere. Everyone bailed except me. I ended up running all the way to his house, way before cell phones, and told his dad, big guy that trained SWAT teams. I was a bit scared. We drove back to the arcade and he picked his son up and ran out the door. My friend spent 2 weeks in the hospital and was then sent to rehab. He never spoke to me again. I was hurt but glad he was alright. You were young, but should have made a different decision. You're going to have to find a way to live with it.
Well, there's a mother's worst nightmare. I gotta go, I feel kinda sick. I know, right? He needs to confess, IMO. I do not know, though. What a story. I feel horrible for all involved. Since he was a child, hopefully police would be easy on him. I am not saying he deserves punishment per se, but he definitely aided in that boy's death. However, he was a child, like I said. He did not know or quite understand the consequences of his actions. I do not blame him alone for his death, of course. What a terrible scenario.
How did they find him in a park and not question the text message?
Probably thought he sent the message, still conscious, so his mum would find out he was drunk. I am more wondering if police bothered to investigate how, where, with who he got drunk. Or was there no investigation, and they assumed he drank by himself in the park?
Sending that text with his phone was croaked up. This is truly awful. In my opinion, the text might have been what sealed his fate. If he did not return home, his mother would have most likely gone out looking for him, and could have found him before he froze. Just terrible to think about. This is why it is important to unconditionally be there for your kids and be understanding. Kids do stupid stuff, but it is never worth them dying. Some kids would rather do something to risk their lives than to tell their parents, and that's sad. Do not make them too afraid to tell you things, because they think you'll get mad. What killed that boy was bad parenting, if anything.
I agreed with what you said all up till bad parenting comment. We do not know anything about his parents to make that judgment.
This is the heaviest confession I had read in here.
Do not confess, because it would be an incredible selfish thing to do. The guilt you are experiencing is your punishment. Try talking to a therapist about this.
That depends on the country's law. He was a minor, so in some countries you couldn't be criminally charged. Also, in some countries there is a statute of limitations, so depending on how much time has passed he couldn't be charged.
Thank you for sharing your story. I do not care if it is fake. I'll text my younger relatives now. That whenever they are in trouble and are afraid to call their parents, they should call me and I'll pick them up or help them otherwise.
That's a really good idea, bless you, and thanks for the idea. If I ever had younger relatives in trouble like that. Good that many people, like you, are taking something super useful away from this post. I am gonna get hate for this, but that was a bad decision even for a 13-year-old. He's guilty. This could be real, or it could be entirely fake story made up just to get fake internet points. But not going to bend over backwards and say Op was a kid so they are not at fault. They're responsible for this kid's death.
Please do not confess under any circumstances. You have no right to cause the family further harm and grief to ease your burden. Confessing now would be like pouring salt into a festering wound. Shut up and live with it. Seek counseling if you have to, but do not do any more harm to this family, I am begging you. This is croaking sad. My heart hurts.
Parents. For exactly this reason you need to give your kids an emergency pass. Kids at this age are a terrible combination of terrified of parental consequences and bad at risk assessment. This can lead to some very bad decision making. My kids have an understanding with me. If they are in a truly bad situation like this where someone is sick, hurt, stranded, or truly in danger, I will come help, no questions asked. We may have a discussion about it later, but I don't want fear of punishment to lead to them or others being in danger. Not blaming Op's parents in the slightest, by the way. Just offering some advice. You are a horrible person, de facto a murderer.
I wish I hadn't read this.
I do not understand all the sympathy. So many things could have been done to save the friend's life. But nothing was done but a cover-up and running away.
Wow, that's a real confession right there.